Alrighty, we are live. So the goal is going to be very simple. We're just going to go ahead and try to build a to-do app from beginning to end. Currently now, right before I started the stream, I was kind of looking into figuring out if there's some kind of like free remote MySQL databases I might be able to use. I think I found one. It seems a little sketchy because it made me fill in a survey before I was able to create a database. So I'm not really sure. I'm trying to find maybe a better option. We'll see. I imagine that there will be something that we can use that will work. So I'm going to just research that a little bit more just to see if I can find something that works. And then we'll go from there, start actually building out this little to-do app. So the goal was to try to use Prisma, so I do still want to do this, but the question at first is going to be which actual database to use. So I mean, I guess I could maybe use a local. Let's see, do I still remember how to connect to my local? Hey, what's going on? How you doing? All right, so I'm going to see if I can actually connect to my local. Maybe this will still work, we'll see. Oh, so I could actually connect to my local. That's fine. So then if I could just connect to my local, then this might actually be quite easy. So I have actually never used Ruby on Rails. I kind of started developing just as like the Ruby on Rails hype, not hype, but like it was kind of very, very popular for a long time and it was used by all startups. But then it started kind of tapering off, and I started getting into professional development just as it started tapering off. So I never really got a chance to work with it. So I don't really have an opinion on it for that reason. Chilling? Nice, good. Well, hopefully you can chill along with me. We could have some fun and actually build something and get to learn some stuff. That's the plan. The only one thing I will say about Ruby on Rails is that it is very opinionated. So I think that might be a good thing, right? That's the whole idea of like the Rails part of it, is that it actually keeps you on the Rails because they have a very specific way of doing things. So there is that. All right, in any event, so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. Okay, so let me see about the get started with getting started. So I have to figure out how to use Prisma. Welcome to the Prisma Getting Started section. Prisma, an open source next generation ORM. It consists of the following parts: the Prisma client, auto-generates and type-safe query builder for auto-generated and type-safe query builder for Node.js and TypeScript. Prisma Migrate, migration tool to easily evolve your database schema from prototyping to production, and then the Prisma Studio, which is what we can then use to view and edit your data in the database. Okay, very, very cool. So which tutorials right for me? Let's do this. Let's do a new SQL project. In order to successfully complete this guide, you need, okay, so we're going to kind of just go through the, I guess, Node.js or the Prisma sort of quick start tutorial. We'll go through this. Once I kind of get my, I kind of wrap my head around it, then from there we can go and move on. So let's say that we're going to be using MySQL so that the guide can be done accordingly. So sort of, it's actually kind of funny. I'm using an older Mac that has significantly less power than the Mac that was giving me issues. The difference is though that this Mac is still running on Catalina, whereas the other one was running on Monterey. Now, I'm fairly certain that in order to get the best performance out of Monterey, you're kind of expected to be in an M1, which the other Mac isn't. So ironically, I'm actually better off downgrading my Mac because this Mac, meaning if I can get the other Mac to work on Catalina, I'd be fine. But I'm just a little bit worried about messing with that. So I figured I'd just use my older Mac, which is still running Catalina, and I'm good to go. So that is kind of where we're at right now. Kind of weird, but yeah, this Mac definitely holds up a lot better, even though it's literally half as powerful, which is funny. Akash, thank you for stopping by again. Is this gonna be Mern? Well, yeah, I guess you could say it will be Mern, with maybe a couple of differences of like the traditional Mern. But yeah, well, in this case, it'll be MySQL instead of Mongo. So yes, I'm thinking about doing is I'm going to be doing MySQL, I'm going to be doing Express, React, Node. I'm going to try to use Prisma. I'm going to try to use React Query, and I do have intention of actually doing authentication using JSON Web Tokens. So hopefully we'll see how far we get tonight. But this is going to be a project that I'm probably going to split up over the course of multiple streams, I imagine, because it'll take us too long in one night to do the whole thing. But yeah, that's kind of the goal. Wyatt, thank you for stopping by. What's going on, buddy? How are you? All right, so I have to learn as well. So let's tinker around and figure out how to work with Prisma. So create your project. Okay, cool. So I already have this all done. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to do this. npm install Prisma, Typescript, ts node, add types node, save dev. So all of these are actually dev dependencies. That's quite interesting. So let's go ahead and install those. Yeah, so I'm actually very excited to play around with Prisma. I've been hearing a lot of really great things about it, so this should be fun. So this creates a package JSON. Yep, so we know that. Okay, now you can invoke the Prisma CLI by prefixing it with npx. Next, set up your Prisma project by creating your Prisma schema file, following the following commands. So first things first, we're going to say npx Prisma. I don't know what that's going to do, but I think that they're kind of asking us to do that, so let's go ahead and say npx Prisma. Okay. Oh, so I don't... Prisma's about... Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, fine. So this is actually the command that we want. This gets us started. Okay, so now your Prisma schema is created at Prisma/schema.prisma. You can now open it in your favorite editor. Next step is set the database URL in the end file to point to your existing database. If your database has no tables yet, okay, cool. Set the provider over the database block in schema.prisma to match your database. Okay, cool. Run Prisma DB pull to turn your database schema into a Prisma schema. Or run Prisma generate to generate the Prisma client. You can then start querying your database. Okay, so let's just go through the tutorial and see what the next steps are. Okay, so this command does two things. Creates a new directory called Prisma that contains a file called schema.prisma, which contains the Prisma schema with your database connection variable and schema models. Okay, great. Creates the end file and the root directory of your project, which is used for defining environment variables such as your database connection. Okay, cool. Hyperscript, Bcrypt. Not sure what you're saying there. Are you learning Prisma on the go in this live? Yes. Yes, this is the plan. I have watched a couple of tutorial videos on it over the past, but I've never actually played with it. So of course, watching videos doesn't do anything. You have to actually play with something. So yes, this is me also learning Prisma. And it's kind of one of the reasons why I want to do this to-do app, because obviously to-do apps are just a great way to just learn new things. They're kind of boring apps, but the simplicity of the app itself is what makes it such a great tool to learn new things. So that's kind of the idea. So the main new thing that we're going to be learning in this particular project, at least for myself, will be Prisma. The rest I've already worked with extensively, but Prisma will be the new thing for me. So let's go ahead and see how we go and connect our database. Okay, so we do... Well, actually, Okay. Okay, so we have to go to the .env file. Okay, so let's see what this is doing. So we go to the .env file, and then here, oh, we actually have an example of this already, but the difference is we need to sort of replace this with the sample MySQL. Wait, what? Oh, I see. Okay, so let's get rid of that, and let's pop that in. And let's get rid of that. Okay, so basically what we're doing is we're now in our .env file, we're defining the database connection string. So in this case, it's not mysql.john.random password. It's actually going to be, oh, but I don't have a database created yet. Would be great things we'll get to know how to learn. Yeah, that's kind of the idea, is we could all learn together, and maybe, I guess, hopefully you could also see a little bit about my process about how I go and learn things. Now, fortunately, in this case, it's going to be a little easier because Prisma has fantastic documentation, so it's going to make it a lot easier for us to learn this. Okay, so in this case, I'm not sure what to do about this part. Like, do I create? Yeah, probably. Okay, so let's do this. Let's connect. Let's go and create a database. So we're going to say add database. I know that this is small, but let's just do this. So we're going to say add database. We're going to call this one to-dos. Add. Okay, so now we have the database. So we're going to say this is going to be root.foobar at localhost 3306 to-dos, right? That's what I called it, just being sure that that's what I called it. Yeah, to-dos. Okay, perfect. So that is that. Type ORM fell off. Yeah, you know, I never even got a chance to use it. But yeah, I'm fairly certain that right now, for like querying SQL databases, when you're like not having to worry about like super complicated queries for like, you know, massive performance reasons, but for the standard 85% of your use cases, I have a feeling that Prisma is one of the more popular options now. In fact, my company right now where I'm working, we've actually just had a conversation, myself and I guess my manager, my tech lead, we were having a conversation about actually switching out from Hasura, which is what we're currently using, and maybe switching to Prisma at some point in the near-ish future. Like he has this idea that within a year we'll be on Prisma. So Prisma, I think, is the new wave. I figure I might as well start learning it. Okay, so let's see what's next. So now that we have that, okay, so we go to our schema.prisma, and now we do this. So we go in here. Okay. Yeah, so I do want to have the Prisma thingamajiggy installed. That'll make life a lot easier. It's amazing how much longer it takes for things to install on this computer, because this computer doesn't actually have an SSD drive. It's unreal that this computer is the one that does better for the stream. It's just so funny, but in any event. All right, so now we should have that. So all we need to do now is just replace this part with what I just copied from them. So basically we're saying database DB, the provider is going to be MySQL, and then the URL to the database is going to be the env database URL, which is what I've just defined here instead of my database URL. I don't know why every single time I come to my .env file, I get this. Maybe I want to just manage extension. Let's manage extension, because this is annoying me. Okay, never mind. Just go away. Okay, next step. Let's see what else we've got. You now need to adjust the connection URL to point to your own database. The format of the connection URL for your database typically depends on the database you use. For MySQL, it looks as follows. The parts spelled all uppercase are placeholders for your specific connection, right? So user, password. Oh, wait a second. I might have messed up on one thing. Oh yeah, I did that right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think we're good. All right, fine. So using Prisma migrate. So here we go. So now we're going to go and start actually building up a model within this Prisma file, which is going to ultimately represent the migration, which will ultimately then represent an actual table within our to-dos database. By the way, if anything that I'm saying is not making sense, please feel free to stop me. Obviously, if I'm learning this, you might as well be learning along with me. Or if I'm making a mistake, then of course, correct me. Okay, so let's just say, so in this guide, you use Prisma Migrate to create the tables in your database. Add the following Prisma data model to your Prisma schema. Okay, fine. So all I want to do then is grab one of these. I'll come here. I'll just pop this in. Whoops, I'm missing one of these. Okay, so we're actually not going to be dealing with any kind of relation right now. I do think that at some point maybe we'll change that once we get to the authentication part. Technically, there's going to be a one-to-many relationship where a user could have many to-dos, and I do think that we probably want to have that happen where every to-do has a user ID. We're going to want that. And so I think just to kind of get started, I'm going to just keep it simple. Then as we evolve, I can always tear things down and build them back up again. In fact, yeah, let's just do that. So let's ignore some of these things here. Okay, so we have the ID, which we're going to say is an int, which is going to be the ID, which is going to be default to auto increment, which is exactly what we want, because this is going to be the ID that auto increments for every single new item that we create. We don't want to call this post. We want to actually call this to do. We want to keep the created at, want to keep the updated at title. That's fine. Body is also, oh, interesting. So string at db dot, wait, why doesn't it give me the code completion that I'm expecting? Let's see, db dot, does it have to be uppercase dot var char 255. Okay, I don't know why that didn't give me the code completion that I wanted. I'm kind of curious about that. Okay, so the title and the body, and then also is complete. Since this is a to-do, we need to have an is complete, which will be, I guess, a Boolean. What do I do there? Do I need any modifiers for that? I guess I can make it default to false. Yeah, here we go. Defaults to false. Okay, so I don't need to copy that. I can just do that right here. Add default false to is complete, and then I guess also due date. Probably gonna want to have a due date. So, or yeah, due date is fine. Due date. So now the question is, what type do I do for this? Date, time. Do they have any examples of that here? Daytime. Okay, yeah, that's good enough. I think that's good enough as far as what the schema looks like. Can I do a format document? Yeah, I can. Nice, I like that. Okay, cool. So let's go and see what is next. So now I go ahead and I run this. Let's see. So to map your data model to your database schema, you need to use the Prisma migrate client commands. npx prisma migrate dev -- name init. This command does two things. It creates a new SQL migration file for this migration. It runs the SQL migration file against the database. Okay. But it actually does two things. Copy that. Let's paste it in there. That's awesome. Let's go back to the database GUI that I've got for now. And there it is. I've actually got a to-dos table. Seems like that was working just fine. So let's keep going. Okay, so they have it as if I've created 3 tables. Obviously, I only created 1, but that's okay. So let's just keep moving. So now we could go ahead and we can install the Prisma client. Okay, so to get started with Prisma client, you need to install the Prisma client package. Okay, let's see what this does. Okay. Okay, we'll see what this does. I'm not sure yet. So notice that the install command automatically invokes Prisma. Wait, did it? Automatically invokes Prisma generate for you, which reads the Prisma schema and generates a version of Prisma client that is tailored to your models. Whenever you make changes to your Prisma schema in the future, you manually need to invoke Prisma generate in order to accommodate the changes in your Prisma client API. Because I think the basic idea is that whatever you have in your models, in your schema, your TypeScript definitions are going to get automatically generated based off of that. So you actually have your TypeScript models model exactly what you have in your database, which is very nice. And so I think that that's what the Prisma generate actually does. So let's see. Let's keep going. Querying your database. Okay, so let me go ahead and grab, well, let me grab this. Let me come in here. We're going to say new file. Nope, I meant to say, well, for now we'll just call this app.ts. Okay, so import Prisma client from @Prisma client. So we create a new Prisma client. We write your Prisma client queries here. So we're going to say main.then await Prisma.disconnect console log error. Okay, fine, very good. So nothing to worry about here, but mostly here is we can actually go ahead and write our Prisma stuff. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so let's see what this does. So we're going to say Prisma. Whoops. Prisma dot to do dot find many. Okay. So obviously I'm not going to get anything, but I just want to see if I say const to do's. I want to just see if I get like an empty array. Const to do's is equal to await that, and then let's just do console.log to do's. Whoops. Now how do they suggest running this? npx ts node index.ts. Okay, so npx, that's what I kind of figured they can do. npx ts node. What did I call my file? App.ts. Okay, perfect. So I get an empty array. That's exactly what we expected. So that's really nice. So I think I kind of I'm starting to get the idea. Ziv, good question, very good question. No. So this await keyword here does not actually make this code synchronous. And of course, in JavaScript, when you're dealing with I/O, so for example, in this case, I'm actually talking to the database. So this is an asynchronous operation. So this very much is still an asynchronous operation. The cool thing about the async await keyword is it's effectively syntactic sugar around the promise API. So what this allows me to do is anything that returns a promise, I can put the await keyword in front of it, which allows me to write the code in such a way that looks like it's synchronous. So I can kind of think about it as if it's synchronous, but the reality is you should really think of this as if it's asynchronous code, because that's what it is. And you can almost think of it as if what the code is actually doing is Prisma.todos or .todo.find many then then data, and then do console.log data. So this is almost, I mean, I'm not even sure if this is 100% true, but I think this is very close to the truth. Whenever I use the await keyword, the actual translation process is going to take this and convert it to proper promise API type stuff. This is just syntactic sugar to make our lives as developers easier. Meet the requirements. I love that name. Why Prisma? Why not Sequelize? Prisma really has had a lot of sort of hype behind it. It seems to be very, very popular lately. So I kind of want to see what it's all about. And from the little bit of research that I've done, it seems to have a really great API. So I've actually used not so much Sequelize, but I've used like some of the older ORMs about 5 or 6 years ago, something like Bookshelf, which was like kind of similar to Sequelize at the time. It doesn't have nearly as much of it's not nearly as robust. So first of all, the idea of being able to just like automatically generate your TypeScript models compared to your actual database models, that's something that Sequelize I don't think offers, unless if they've already come a long way since then. But at the time they didn't offer this, neither did Bookshelf. Same thing is also like this idea of introspection, meaning if let's say I make a change to my database, my migration code can get updated automatically, meaning it's like a two-way street. My migration code can update my models in my database, but my models in the database can also update my migration code. So this way they never kind of get out of sync. That's another really nice thing which neither Bookshelf nor Sequelize offers as far as I know. At least they haven't in the past when I used them. And again, the TypeScript first support is probably one of the best things about it. So. Ziv, let me know if what I answered, if that in terms of the await keyword, let me know if that clarified things for you. Okay, so I think we're at that point now. Let's just see what else they're talking about here. Okay, so write data into the database. Yep. Okay, fine. So I think at this point we can kind of start building out the actual Express route or the Express part of this app, interwoven with our meaning, I'll tell you honestly, if I can get to the point right now where I could have all the basic CRUD operations working with Express and Prisma with a MySQL database all working in tandem, I'll be very happy. So if I could just get that part, yeah, and then we can start thinking about actually building this out for real with like adding authentication and adding more models and stuff like that. So Ziv says, it helped a bit, but I'm new to any dev stack that's not LAMP stack, so I'm not sure what our promise is. Thanks for the explanation. Well, Ziv, I have no problem going off into a tangent and talking to you about what a promise is. I'd be happy to. I do actually have a video on it. If you want, I can either reference that video for you, I can send you a link to it, or we can launch into like a 5-10 minute conversation about promises and callbacks right now. And then that'll help you understand the async await keyword. Because at the end of the day, the point of the stream is so that we can all learn together. So if you want, I'm more than happy to do that. Just let me know. Okay, cool. So let me link that video for you. I'm gonna just take 2 seconds to find it here. I'm gonna find it on the other screen, and I'm gonna link it in the chat. Okay, so I just pasted it in chat. I will just say that video does talk about the perspective, meaning it comes from the angle of like what's the difference between a promise and a callback. But at the same time, in explaining what the difference between the two of them are, I also explain what each one of them are. So you have to first understand what they are to kind of understand how they differ. So I feel like once you finish that video, you'll have a pretty good understanding. And then if you want more clarification, I'd be happy to go over that with you. Let me know. Okay, so let's actually build out the Express portion of this, the actual API part of this, getting all the basic CRUD operations working with Prisma. And then I think we'll be in a pretty good spot to actually go and add more models, have some relationships, and kind of go from there. So let's see. You got it, Ziv. All right, so let's do npm, whoops. npm I express add type express. I believe that's all I need for now, to be honest, because body parser is already built into Express nowadays. Not handling anything else at the moment. I may want cores at some points. Okay, when I need cores, I'll install cores. Let's just leave it at that for now. There was actually something that I was told about recently. Somebody in the chat told me about this last week. I want to do a little more research on it. There's this idea of like having Nodemon, but like for TypeScript. Let me just see. Nodemon for TypeScript. Is the stream back or is it still not working? Okay. All right, perfect. Thanks. All right, so I'm not sure. Dude, I forgot what it was called. Yeah, maybe it was. All right, I'm glad. I mean, I'm not glad that you're having issues, but I'm glad that the stream is actually working for a change. Okay, so I guess I could just install Nodemon, and I can kind of just do this. Fine. I'll make one small modification to that. So let's just do this. We're going to add in. So we're just going to go and call this, yeah, dev. We'll just call it dev. And then here we'll just append the npx in front of it, npx nodemon-watch, blah, 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 exec ts node server.ts. I think that'll be good enough for us to kind of get started here. So let's just try. So we're going to say, well, actually, one thing that I'm still missing, which is super important, is npx tsc -init. Okay, cool. So now I actually have a ts config with some of the basic stuffs. Let's start and see if I can get this working. So npm or import express from express const app is equal to express app.listen on port 1337. Console. Wow, it is incredibly difficult to type on stream. This is one of the reasons why all of my videos I typically just copy and paste my code in as opposed to writing it on like while I'm recording. Server is running. Okay, let's just see if I can get this far. Okay, so we're gonna go here. We're gonna say npm run dev, and server is running. Okay, great. We're in business. So now I need to go ahead and set up some routes. And we're going to use Prisma. Okay, so we're going to get the basic API out of the way. That's the goal. We'll get the basic API out of the way, and then I think we'll be in a very good spot. Yo, I'm not going to lie. This is really, really getting on my nerves. What is this? Why does, I mean, I know what it is, but why does it keep happening? Okay, let's go to, this is the ultimate bike shedding, but it is what it is. Bracket. Wait, so I don't even seem to have it installed anymore. Weird. I thought I could maybe. Oh, wait a second. Hang on. There's a way to see you're installed. This is what I have installed. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this is really not worth it, even though it's kind of annoying. But okay, here we go. Here we go. Manage. Uninstall. Goodbye. Okay. That's good. What? Why did that just come back? I have no idea. Okay, no worries. Let's make a new folder here. We're going to call this one API. Let's make a new folder. Or actually, let's first do an index.ts here. And we're going to say import from Express. We're going to import the router. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and instantiate a new router here. We're going to say const router is equal to router. And then we're going to say export default. That's not default. Export default router. Now let's go and make a new folder. In here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to call this to do. So I'm kind of doing this in a somewhat RESTful way. It's fine. I don't even, whatever. I'm doing it RESTful even though there's really no reason for me to do it RESTful, but we'll see how far. I'm not going to like worry too much about it. Okay, so let's import router again from Express. Const router is equal to router. Let's export this, export default router. And now let's go ahead and start. Yeah, so now we're going to start actually setting up our endpoints. So we're going to say router.get. So in this case, we're just going to do a slash right here. This is going to give us a rec and a res. We're going to have to make this async. Okay, and also let's go back to the app and we're just going to import this little boilerplate right here. Actually, okay, yeah, whatever. Okay, so I've got the Prisma client and I've got the router. So now I'll make this async. So we're going to say const to-dos is equal to await Prisma dot to do dot find many, just like that. Then we're going to say res dot json to dos, just like that. Okay, that's good enough for now. Let's go ahead and start setting up the post request. So to create one, so we're going to go to /async rec res. Whoops. Okay, so here's where things are going to be a little bit more interesting. Okay, so we're going to say Prisma dot to do dot create. So it requires a data. Now this is the best part. It knows exactly what it needs. Oh, this is so awesome. Okay. Wow, it's so cool. It knows exactly what it needs and knows what's optional, what I have to supply, the types of it, all of it. So for now, okay, so we're going to say body rec dot body dot body. We'll do it like that so that we can actually use Postman or something. Due date will be equal to rec dot body dot due date. How's the stream holding up? Are we good? Title is going to be rec dot body dot title. And then is complete. I don't really need to provide that because it starts out as false. So I don't need to provide that. So that's good. Okay, so let's just leave it with these two for now. We'll get these working and then we'll go and add in the update and the delete. And then we're in a very good spot. Okay. So we come here. We're going to say import to do's from /todos. Now we're going to say router .use /todos use todos. Okay, now I go back to server, and then I do an import. Whoops. Import API from /API, and then I can say app.use /API. Go ahead and use the API, but of course I need to also set up the body parser stuff. So let's do that. So we're going to say app.use express.json and app.use express.url encoded extended false. Cool. So that is good. I actually think that we're good to try and use Postman to at least go ahead and create a to-do, and then we can try to read out the to-dos and then move on to the next step. So let me just see. I need to send in a body, a due date, and a title. Okay, great. Let's see if I still have Postman on this computer. I have no idea what I've got. URL encoded, extended false. Let's find out what extended does. Once and for all, let's find out what extended does. Hello? Okay. Let's see all right, let's see what this is. Oh, okay, interesting. So here it seems to say that if you do extend, maybe I should actually be doing extended true and not extended false, because it seems to say that if you do extended true, that you can pass in more than just strings. You can pass in, I guess, any data types, and maybe that's what I want. Let's read the accepted answer. Towards the middle, it only parses URL encoded bodies and only looks at requests where the content type better matches the type option. This parser accepts only to fade encoding to the body that supports automatic completion of gzip and the. Okay, a new body object contained the parse data is populated on the request object after the middleware. This object will contain key light pairs where the value can be a string or array when extended as false, or any type when extended as true. Yeah, I'm still not entirely sure, but I do think that extended true is more flexible. So let's do that. Let's do that. Now I seem to not have Postman anymore. I'm a little bit confused. I might have to install Postman. Or maybe I could use Google's. Yeah, I think I might just have to install Postman. Fine, no big deal. All right, so we're just gonna install this. And then we'll be able to start. I don't know why I ever got rid of it. Not sure. Wait, what is Postman agent? Did I install the wrong thing? Let's see what this is. What's it called? Thunder client? Interesting. All right, let's try Postman real quick. If I have trouble, I'll use something else, but why isn't it actually opening? Oh, okay, you know what? Maybe you're right. I'm actually curious, what happens if I type in Postman? I get Postman runner. Yeah, there's definitely, here we go, Thunder client. Let's see how this works. How do I use it? Usage. Install the extension, click Thunder client icon on the action bar. From sidebar, click new request button to test API. Okay, so I get, is it here? Oh, okay, cool. Cool, okay, so that's interesting. That is definitely interesting. So I do new request. Okay, so let's go ahead and make a, oh, I like this. This is actually very cool. Okay, so we're gonna go to http://localhost port 1337 /API/todos. Let's send this and cannot, what? Okay, first of all, that's not true, but let me just do a GET request first. Cannot get /API/todos. Okay, so what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Will I upload the streams for the whole app? I want to follow along. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be doing that. The main problem that I'm having is that I won't be finishing this tonight anyway. That's problem number one. Problem number two is that the quality of the streams are not the quality that I want my videos to be in. Because there's a lot of like talking to chat, a lot of slowing down, a lot of like figuring things out. It's all the kind of stuff that makes perfect sense for a stream, but it's not the kind of stuff that makes sense for a video. Videos have to be more snappy. It's just very different. The way that I like making videos, the way that my streams come out are just not the same thing. So that's kind of the issue. Okay, so let's figure out why this isn't working. So I go here. I do app.use/API, we use the API. So we come in here. We got router/dos, then we come in here. Then we go router that gets slash. Wait, so why? I'm actually a little bit confused as to, wait, I really generally don't understand what just happened. The server is running on port 1337. My request is going to localhost 1337. And I'm getting a cannot get /API/todos. Why am I getting a 404? Must be doing something very silly, but I'm not 100% sure what it is. Let's see. Let's debug this. That's what the real type of content videos don't have to be so structured always. We want to see. Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think that there's a lot of value in seeing me struggle. I get that. The problem is that unfortunately, most people get bored and will just click off, and then that really hurts the video. Right? There's an element that I have to balance between the type of content that I think would be awesome to make and also the type of content that people generally want to see. Not always is that the same thing. That's really the crux of it. Okay, so let's see, headers. I'm trying to see what the URL that it actually, okay, here we go, headers. I'm trying to see what was the request that it actually sent. Results, no. I want to see something. If I go to localhost port 1337 /API/todos. Okay, so it's not It's not like the client is messed up. Yeah, it's not even working from here, which it totally should. So it's deeper than that. Okay, let's just do something very silly. app.get /foobar. Oh, wait. Yeah, I did do that right. Okay, so let's see. res.json success true. Okay, so let's just try to go to just localhost 1337 /foobar. Wait. I don't think my server actually restarted. Yeah, sorry, Sujio. I apologize, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Okay, I think I just figured something out. My server is actually never restarted. So it doesn't actually have that code. That's all it is. If I come back here now, I think the way that I configured my Postman command, I think that was the issue. The code just never restarted, so that's why all of that didn't exist. So if I go back to here and I hit send, there we go, we get the empty array. So now let's go and change this to a post request, and let's send in the body. So we go back to here. So we have the body, the due date, and the title. So, oh, I can actually send it in as JSON. That's kind of nice. Okay, so title is going to be equal to test. Body is going to be equal to testing. And then due date, what did I call it? Due date or date due? Due date. So this is where I'm going to have to go and get myself an actual date object. So let's go to like a REPL client or something. Okay. And all I'm going to do is just use the date object, create a new date, and then just paste that in, and then we'll see. So we're going to say console.log new date. Whoops. New date. Oh, come on. Starting to really not like REPL. Okay. Is it going to work? Okay, it worked relatively fast. That's fine. So let's copy that. Let's go back into VS Code, go here. Let's paste that in. Let's send, and processing. Something blew up. I have a strong feeling something blew up. Okay, so let's wrap this in a try catch, and let's try again. Oh, no. I'm just silly because I should have done res.json. Success. I totally forgot to actually send something back. So that totally could have worked. I'll test that in a second. Let's go back and make this GET request. Now we should see if we actually get one to do. Cancel request. Okay. GET request. Oh, we still don't get one to do. Okay, so maybe we should still wrap this inside of a try catch. I think it didn't actually work. So let's do try. I think I might know what the issue is, but I'm not going to say anything until I see it. But I think it might have something to do with my date. Okay, and then let's just do RS. This is annoying, actually. I got to figure this part out, why this isn't actually working. Oh, in fact. Yeah. I should have waited, especially if I'm using a try catch. Absolutely. Okay, server is running. Whoops. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to the post request. Let's do send success true. Okay, why don't I believe you? Oh. Okay, I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but the code could be the await actually. You might have been onto that. Might have been on something. Could be the await was the problem, but it seems to me like we're working now. So I've got the ability to read my to-dos, and I've got the ability to go ahead and create a to-do, all using Prisma, which is nice. Okay, so let's go. I keep forgetting that like I'm actually in VS Code with the Thunder client, so it's gonna take a minute until I stop trying to go out of it, only to come back in. Okay, so I have that. Let's do a patch request. Router.patch. Trivia question for chat. Who knows the difference between a patch and a put? Rajesh, I have not actually used Nest.js, so I can't give you a very educated opinion on it. All I can say is, from what I understand, it's kind of a rare thing in the JavaScript world to have something that is as fully opinionated and as enterprise ready as Nest.js, which is a good thing because that's one of the problems that JavaScript kind of suffers with, is that it's a bit of the wild, wild west. So while you may know Express, you may know JavaScript, you may know TypeScript, you may know, all these different little frameworks and libraries, but then you come into a new code base and you're like, what am I looking at? This is so different than what I'm used to, because everyone can have their own paradigms and way of doing things and their different patterns, and that can be a little bit intimidating, and can also mean that new developers have to take that much more time to ramp up into your code base. But if you have an existing pattern that that's one of the same things with Angular, right? I haven't never used Angular, but from what I understand is Angular has pretty tight structure and opinions of how things are done. So traversing from code base to code base is that much easier versus if you're going from like a React code base to another React code base. No two React code bases across the entire world are the same. And I think the same thing can be true about Node backends as well. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Nest.js tries to solve exactly that problem. Akash, you were asked about put and patch in an interview? Oh boy. Okay, let's go and do... Oh, interesting. They actually got inspiration from Angular. I never actually knew that. That's very interesting. Yeah, but I think that that's kind of the idea, right? The idea basically is to try and have something that it makes onboarding easier. It makes new developers feel like they have guardrails to follow. I think it's a good thing. All right. Well, now that you were asked in an interview, or now that you had to Google it, Sujio, or Sujo, I don't even know. I'm just gonna call you Suj. Hope that's cool. So yeah, let me know what you found out from your Googles. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna go to slash, and this is gonna have an ID on it, and then we're gonna say async rec res Okay, so let's just do await Prisma dot to do. Whoops. To do dot. Let's see. So update. And what does update accept? So the first thing update accepts is going to be the where clause. Okay, very good. So we're going to say where. I love this API. This is so smooth. Like, this is just so good. Where ID is equal to rec.params.id. Yo, this is so good. This is so good. I can't even tell you. Yeah, Suj is fine. Okay, good. I'm glad, because I think I'm butchering your actual name, so I'm just going to go with a nickname. Patches modifying with partial data. Correct. The best way to remember this, if you're a gamer, this helps a lot, right? Whenever like let's say you have a bug in the game, and then the developers are like releasing a fix, they're usually releasing a patch. They're just patching the game, right? That's always like the way that I always try to remember it. Is a patch is just something small. A small fix is just a patch. So, what I'm doing here now, the truth of the matter is, you could potentially also use a patch even if you're updating the entire object. But the point is, you would use a put when the whole point of the endpoint is to totally replace the entire object except for the ID. But anything other than that specific use case where the whole point of the endpoint is to literally replace the entire object, you would just use a patch. That's basically the way that I would describe it anyway. All right, so now we're going to use a little bit of a hack here. We're just going to do plus rec.params.id. Wait, why aren't you happy? Oh, wait a second. I don't know what the issue is. Let me just see what the issue is. The issue is type string is not assignable to type number. Okay, so I can just cast this and then call it a day, I think. Property data is missing. Okay, like that's fine. Data. All right, and so now see here. Here I can pretty much put in all the fields again, right? We can basically update any one of these particular 3 fields. Oh, actually one other thing that's very important is we may also... Oh, wait a second. Okay, wait, this guy is still not happy. Conversion of type string to type number may be a mistake because neither type sufficiently... Okay, fine. So maybe we should just do that. Well, that, yeah, so that solves it. So put is when you're not making a new entry, because remember with put you're still using the same ID as the previous item. So it's not like you're actually creating an entirely new entity in the database because the ID is going to be the same, but everything else about the entity is going to be completely different. All the fields, everything. Okay, so okay, so now we're going to say is complete is equal to rec.body.is complete. Okay, cool. So we have the patch working. And then finally, let's go ahead and do a delete. Yeah, exactly. Post is when you're actually creating an entirely new entity. That's an actual creation. Shimon Wosner, thank you for stopping by. I see that your message was deleted. Were you by any chance trying to... Oh, okay, so you might have deleted your message yourself. So this is a neat little hack that I recently learned. Basically, I'm coercing the params that ID to be an integer. So I could have just done parse int, but because I'm putting a plus in front of it, I'm basically telling JavaScript that it's actually going to be a number. So it's a way of coercing it essentially. Because the ID here requires a number. rec.params.id comes in as a string, but I'm coercing it to be a number by putting the plus in front of it. But the more correct thing would probably be to use parse int, but I'm lazy to write that many characters, and this is a nice little hack that I recently learned, and I just kind of like it. Okay, so let's do the delete now. I'm getting so frustrated with this. I don't know what to do with this. Okay, whatever. Router.delete. So this is going to be a /:id async recres. What's the other alternative then plus is to actually use parse int. So in other words, I would have done this. So this explicitly parses it. Instead of coercing it, it's explicitly parsing it from a string to an integer, which is arguably the more correct way to do it. So now let's do the deletes. We're going to say, oh wait, so one very important thing, I can't forget this again. So now let's just do res.json success is equal to true. Okay, and then here, I'm going to say await prisma.todo.delete. So delete also needs a where. So the delete probably just needs a where, to be honest. Where ID is equal to parse int rec.params.id. This is such a nice API. Prisma, I'm a big fan so far. Really a big fan. Res.json success true. Okay, let's restart the server, knowing that I have to keep doing it so manually. So the goal now is going to be to try to actually mark one of the to-dos as complete and then delete the to-do. And then we basically have the CRUD of our to-dos done. And then we could potentially start on, well, then we'll see what we'll do. It could be one of two ways that we can go for the rest of the night. Or one of three ways that we can go. This is definitely not working properly. All right. Isn't the TypeScript? Yeah, correct. Meaning if this was JavaScript and not TypeScript, I wouldn't even need to do that because JavaScript doesn't care that this is expecting a number and that this could be a string. That's true. That's very true. But the reason why TypeScript is satisfied with me adding the plus or the parseInt is because fundamentally what's actually happening with that syntax is that it's actually getting converted to a number. So the reality of it is that at runtime it will actually be a number, but you're right. We only care about it at compile time because we're using TypeScript, if that makes sense. Okay, let's try to mark this to do as complete. So we're gonna do a patch to /1, and then we're gonna say is complete. Complete is going to be equal to true. Send that success as true. Let's go back and make a GET request to get all of my to-dos. Oh, one very important. Okay. See about that soon. Here we go. So now the actual patch worked because now we can see that is complete is actually equal to true. One more thing I want to do before I actually test the delete is I want to actually create an endpoint to give me to do by ID. I think that that'll be important. So let's do that. We'll do that up here. Router.get/:ID. Yeah, so I've actually uninstalled the plugin already. Maybe you're right. Maybe I should close down VS Code and open it. That's the one part I haven't done yet. Let's see, because I definitely did uninstall it. Unless if I installed something that I thought it was, maybe it's something else. I'm not sure. We'll see. Yeah, because you're right. It is very annoying. No, I don't want that. After installing the plugin, check your settings of JSON and remove the... Oh, interesting. Okay. How do I open up the settings of JSON again? Can I see it here as JSON? All right. Let's see. Let me just see one thing. Let me see if it's already gone. Okay, I think we're actually already good. Just by the way, I think just restarting VS Code was good enough. So thank you for that. It was an idea I didn't think about, so that's helpful. I think we are actually good. Okay, so let's do const to do is equal to await Prisma dot to do dot find first. Find the first to do that matches the filter. Note that, okay. It matches the filter. I'm assuming this is going to have a where, yup. ID, yup, is equal to rec or parseInt rec.params.id. And then let's just go ahead and say res.json to do. Okay. Npm Run Dev. I need to fix this command. Okay, cool. So we're running. Let's go back here. Okay, so we're actually going to go to /API/to/do/1 and get a single to do. There it is. Perfect. So all we need to do now is we've already gotten all of our to-dos. We've created a to-do. We've updated a to-do to mark it as complete. We've gotten a single to-do. All we've got to do now is delete this to-do, and then we are basically done with the API part of this. Delete, send, success true. Let's go back and do a get of all of the to-dos, and we should be getting an empty array. And we do. Perfect. So Prisma is actually amazing. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. I mean, I'm barely scratching the surface of what you can actually do with Prisma, but this is actually very cool. Very, very cool. Now, there should be a Prisma GUI that we can use. So let me go back to the documentation for a second. There should be a Prisma GUI that we can use. Next steps. Here we go. Next steps. All right, let's just Google this straight up. Prisma GUI. Nope. NPX Prisma Studio. Okay. CD developer, CD personal, CD full stack to do NPX Prisma Studio. Yo, this is so cool. This is so cool. And there it is. I love this. I'm such a fan. I can't even tell you I'm such a fan. I think all my projects going forward, if I have no reason not to use anything other than Prisma. And mind you, what's also really cool about this is it doesn't have to work with only SQL databases. You can actually use it with Mongo as well. This is very good stuff. This is very good stuff. I'm very, very excited about this. Okay, so one of three options that we can go now. We could start building out the front end using React Query with React. We could add authentication to the back end here using JSON Web Tokens. Or number three, we can just talk about some other stuff, random stuff, if you guys have a topic you want to talk about. So I'm just going to wait for you guys to see if anybody has any suggestions of what they want to do. Otherwise, I'll just choose. Anybody got any suggestions? Authentication. Alrighty. Sounds good. So let's do authentication then. Okay, so I don't know if we'll be able to finish all of authentication for tonight, but we're going to start. Worst case, we're going to get through the rest of it throughout this week. That's the project for this week, is to try to get through as much of this to-do app as possible and all the bells and whistles. Then I've got another idea that I want to work on starting maybe next week. A very fun idea that I think will be a lot like a proper fun project. But first we have to learn some things before we can do that project. Okay, anyways, we have to install two things. Let's open up a third terminal tab. CD developer, personal, yep, yada, yada, yada. So here we go. So we're going to say npm Bcrypt Js. Oh, so I may also have to redo. Okay, there's a couple of things we need to do now. So you have to install Bcrypt Js and then at types Bcrypt Js. Install that and see how that works out for us. Okay, that's good. npm JSON Web Token at types JSON Web Token. Okay, and now I think before we can even start on that part of it, we should go back to our schema. And we need to go ahead and create a user model. Model user. Okay, so first of all, I want these guys just off the bat, easy peasy. Definitely want these guys. Okay, I also want to have username, which will be string. I also want to have password, which will be a string. And then maybe we should just go, do I need name? Yeah, username is fine. That's good enough. Now I need to go back to the Prisma documentation and figure out how to do the relationships. I'm not 100% sure. So let's go back a page. Nope. Install Prisma client using Prisma migrate. Here we go. Okay, so basically what I do is I would give this an author. Okay, here we go. So this is basically what I want. Let's go back to the to-do. Now this is actually going to be equal to a user, which is going to be of type user. Why aren't you happy? Error, validation field user and model to do. Relation field user on model to do is missing an opposite relating field in the model user. Either run Prisma format to add. Okay, interesting. So this is going to have a. Wait, what? I'm a little bit confused. User ID is an int. This will go to user. This will be user ID. Now I'm actually not sure what it's complaining about. Error validating field user and model to do. The relation field user on model to do is missing an opposite relation field on the model user. I'm going to run Prisma format and see what that does. I'm very curious. MPX Prisma format. That didn't do anything. Let me go back here and see what they're doing. So a post has a use. Oh, okay. That's okay. Silly. That's probably why. Basically, this has to have a list of to-dos, which is going to be equal to a to-do array. That's what it wanted. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So basically, on the to-do now, we say that it has a user ID, and then it also has as part of the graph, so to say, it has a user object, which relates to the user ID. This user ID relates to the ID on the actual user object, and then so to the user object now has an array of to-dos on the model. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. And now the command that I need to run is Prisma migrate or generate. I don't know. Okay, so I think I should do Prisma migrate, and then we're good to go. Prisma. Oh, so it's npx Prisma migrate. What did I do wrong? Did that actually do it? I can't tell if it did it or not. I don't think it did it. So I must have done something wrong. Hang on a second. No, generate is called under the hood by default after running Prisma migrate. Dev. The Prisma client Js started defining schema will check. Oh, do I have to run Prisma migrate dev? Is that why? Enter a name for the new migration. Add underscore user. Okay. Go back to Prisma Studio. Come here. Refresh. What am I doing wrong? I don't have a streaming schedule as such. If I ever stream, it'll probably be only Monday through Thursday, meaning some of those nights it may be like once or twice a week. I'm gonna try to stream more than we'll see how it works out. But when I do stream, it'll likely only be after around 9:45, 10 o'clock Eastern, something like that. So that's about the best ballpark I can give you. Any weekday between Monday and Thursday can be a potential streaming night, and probably never earlier than 9:45 Eastern. Okay, so why? Okay, so the following migrations have been created and applied from the new schema changes. Your database is now in sync with your schema. So, interestingly enough, here it doesn't actually seem. I think I might know why, but let me just do one thing quickly. I think I have an interesting idea here. Yeah, let me open up my database here and let's refresh here. Yeah, so here we actually have the user, so that worked. So I have a feeling, okay, so I have a feeling that the problem is I just need to close Prisma Studio. I'll come back here. Let's kill that and let's rerun that command, and then it'll hopefully have the refreshed data in there. Okay, there we go. We got the to-do, which has on it a user object, and we have the user, which has on it the array of to-dos. Beautiful. So that's actually working. But now that I've done this, it seems like things are breaking here. Why? Because when I create my user, I now can't just not give them the to-dos array, right? Probably that's what it is. Wait, what are you complaining about? Property user missing in type body. Oh, of course. Okay, yeah, so this is actually very good. So I now need to give this a user ID. Oh, once we actually give it, you gotta have it. All right, sounds good. Have a good one. Thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out. I appreciate it. Okay, so interesting. So it wants me to actually give it an entire user object. That's interesting. Why? Why wouldn't it be enough? Why isn't it smart enough to know that I should only have to... Wait, what? I'm actually generally confused. Okay, let me actually see if it's VS Code complaining or if I have a real TypeScript error. Let's run this and see if I have a real TypeScript error or if it's just VS Code. Yeah, so I do have a real error here. Property users missing a type data by due date. Okay, so when I'm creating a to-do, I've got to actually put on a user, which I guess makes sense because, but I should only have to give it a user ID. Oh, okay, fine. So that makes sense. As long as I just give it the user ID, then that makes sense. So now for now, I'm just going to hard code it to 1, but this is actually where the authentication and the authorization is going to start coming into play. So let's get to work on that. So now we need to go ahead and create a new router. Okay, so we'll actually do it this way. We're going to say new folder, auth, index.ts. Router. 1 second, everybody. Sorry. Okay. Okay, let's just do const router is equal to router, and then export default router. Okay, so now let's make a new, what's it called? A new file here. We're going to say auth.ts. This is going to be where the actual auth stuff happens. So we're going to say import. I'm going to have to probably Google the Bcrypt stuff again because it's been so long since I've done the Bcrypt stuff, but no matter. Right. Okay. So import. Okay. So yeah, first things first, import the router again. Const router is equal to router. And then export default router. Okay, so first things first, let's go ahead and make a sign up route. So we're going to say router.post / signup async rec res. Okay, and then let me go back to the to-dos. Let me just get the Prisma stuff. Okay, I don't need that. Gonna want to move this one up. We got the, is it command? No. Is it shift command? No. Okay, whatever. I forgot how it's done. And I don't need that. Okay, so here we go. So we're gonna do sign up. So we create. Yeah, okay, very simple. So let's do this. So we're gonna say await. Actually, first things first, we're gonna need, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna have to hash the password and then save the hash password. So let's actually look at Bcrypt Js's documentation very quickly. Okay, pretty much this is what we want. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So import. Let's see. Let's see what this exposes. Hash. Okay. Const hashed is equal to await bcrypt, or is equal to hash. Now, what does hash accept? A salt string to hash. Oh, so I have to first generate a salt. Gen salt. Okay, so let's do this. So we're going to say const salt is equal to await. Oh, wait, does gen salt return a promise? Yeah, it does. Await gen salt 10. Passing in the salt. And what else do you need? And then, oh no, you want the string first. So you actually want rec.body.password. And then you want the salt, right? So let me just make sure that I got that right. Hash accepts the string first, and then a salt later. Oh, you could actually pass in a number for salt as well. Okay, fine. So I didn't actually need to do the gen salt, but whatever. Since I already have that, I'll leave that for now. So now that I've got the hash password, now I can go and actually go ahead and build the user object. So we're going to say await prisma.user.create data. Password is equal to hashed. Username is equal to rec.body.username. What else do you need? Yeah, that's it. Okay, good. So we have the ability to actually create a user. Let's just do now res.json success true. So this is how you would sign up. Okay, so we got that part done. Let's go ahead and do the login part now. Router.post to /login. Whoops. So, oh my gosh, so many typos. Async rec res Okay, so now we need to actually also bring in compare. Okay, so const user is equal to Prisma dot user dot find first, where username is equal to rec dot body dot username. Okay, and then we're gonna just do, so user can potentially be null. Very good. So if not user, okay, we'll say if user. So now we're gonna go ahead and compare. This condition will always return true. Oh, yep, thank you. Very good catch. So if user, basically, if we actually if this username actually exists. Okay, let's see. So if this username actually exists, then let's go ahead and say const passwords match is equal to await compare. So compare takes in the string. That's going to be rec.body.password and the user.password. Now, if passwords match, then here sign token and send back. Otherwise, if you come down here, so I think if you come down here, we're just going to say res.status 403, I think, .json message access. I think it's a 403. Let me actually Google this real quick. Not that it matters too much, but let me just Google this real quick. 403 versus 401. So it's actually the exact opposite. According to this, I think I'm supposed to be passing back a 401, not a 403. Okay. Great. So right, so now I need to actually go ahead and sign the token. Okay, so let's do this. Let's import JSON Web Token. So import JWT from JSON Web Token. Now we're going to say JWT. We're going to say const token is equal to JWT, that's sign. So sign accepts the payload first. So we're going to say user ID is equal to user dot ID. The next thing that it accepts after that is the secret or private key. So let's just do some big secret. Of course, this shouldn't really be done this way. You should have a randomly generated string and you should be hiding it in your environment variables. Then what else do you need? You need an expires in. Options expires in, and then we'll just do 1 day. I think you could do that. And now we're going to say res.json token. Fantastic. So and then we'll just do a return here so that the function execution stops and we're done. So if I read this correctly, let's just go through this code and make sure that I got this right. So we say const user is a way we get the user. If we have a user, then we check if the passwords match. If they match, we create a token. If you don't have a user, or if the passwords don't match, you're eventually just going to come down here and you're going to get an access denied message. Perfect. So that makes a lot of sense. So, okay, so the last thing that we're going to do for tonight, I think... No, actually, I think that's a pretty good stopping point. Tomorrow we're going to pick this up and we're going to move on to actually wiring up the authentication and actually having authorization. So we're working on the authentication part right now. Tomorrow night we're going to finish the authentication, wire up the authorization, and then we can go ahead and start building out the UI for this. And maybe by tomorrow or maybe another night after that, 2 more nights I expect, and we can potentially be done. Well, actually this week I've only got tomorrow night left. So we'll see how far we get tomorrow night. Either way, thank you all so much for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed the stream. If you did, please drop a like. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you in the next one. Have a good night, everybody.